The waves lapped at the shore in rhythmic indifference, as though they had existed far longer than the questions that gnawed at my mind. The vast expanse of the sea mirrored the labyrinth of my thoughts, uncharted, unpredictable, and overwhelming.
Miss White walked a few steps ahead, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The setting sun painted her face in soft amber hues, her expression unreadable yet inviting. She finally turned to him, breaking the silence.
Do you ever feel like you're running in circles, Dr. Axell?
What do you mean?
She smiled faintly, the kind that hid more than it revealed.
All your models, your theories, even this cuboctahedron you've so meticulously crafted. It's beautiful, no doubt. But does it answer the question that keeps you awake at night?
Her words landed like stones in a still pond, sending ripples through his carefully constructed sense of self.
You think I'm avoiding something?
I think you're layering complexities over a simple truth. Tell me, Dr. Axell, who are you beneath all this noise? The accolades, the theories, even the brilliance. What's left if we strip it all away?
He frowned, his hands instinctively curling into fists.
I've dedicated my life to understanding the layers of human potential. Isn't that enough?
It's enough if you're content with it. But are you? Or is there something else? A restlessness that no model, no achievement can soothe?
Dr. Axell turned toward the sea, the horizon blurring as the weight of her words settled on him.
If I strip it all away, I fear there's nothing.
Miss White stepped beside him, her voice calm, almost maternal.
And what if that nothing is the beginning, not the end?
At this moment, Dr. Axell instinctively pulls out a sketch of the cuboctahedron from his pocket. He unfolds it, his fingers trembling slightly.
This is my life's work, a representation of balance, of interconnectedness.
Miss White studied it for a moment, before meeting his gaze.
And yet every edge, every angle is still defined by what it isn't, by the space it leaves behind. Perhaps your work isn't a destination, it's a doorway.
A doorway to what?
To the realization that you've been trying to map something that can't be mapped. The self isn't a shape, Dr. Axell. It's the void between the shapes.
Dr. Axell is kneeling in the sand, gazing at the cuboctahedron sketch as if seeing it for the first time. He realizes that his work, brilliant as it is, has been a construct of the ego, an attempt to grasp the ungraspable. Miss White walks away, leaving him alone with his thoughts and the rhythmic lull of the waves. For the first time, Dr. Axell doesn't resist the question she posed. Instead, he closes his eyes and lets it echo in the silence. The cuboctahedron sketch rested on his lap, edges smudged from years of folding and unfolding. Dr. Axell sat alone now, Miss White's footsteps fading into the distance. The tide ebbed and flowed, a slow, ancient rhythm that seemed to mock his restless mind. He traced the lines of the cuboctahedron with a finger, each angle reminding him of the control he once believed he had over life's chaos. It was perfect, symmetrical, balanced, logical. Everything his own existence wasn't. For decades he had lived like an architect of order, constructing models to explain, predict and guide. Yet now, under Miss White's piercing question, the foundation cracked. Who was he without the equations, without the accolades, without the framework he had painstakingly built? He clenched the sketch tightly, his knuckles whitening. But the waves offered no reassurance. Images from his past swirled like grains of sand caught in the wind. The applause at conferences, the long nights poring over data, the glowing testimonials of those who claimed his model had changed their lives. Each memory shimmered briefly before dissolving, leaving him with a gnawing emptiness. He remembered his father's voice, stern yet proud.
Life isn't just about questions, it's about answers.
The words had propelled him into a lifetime of inquiry. But now they felt like chains, binding him to a need for certainty that no longer made sense. He looked up at the sky, now a canvas of twilight hues. A single star twinkled, distant and cold. The space Miss White had occupied felt vast and oppressive. Her absence wasn't just physical, it was metaphorical. She had left him not with answers, but with a chasm, a void he couldn't ignore. In her stead, her words lingered.
What if the nothing is the beginning?
His instinct was to reject the idea. Nothingness was failure, wasn't it? The death of meaning, and yet a small voice within whispered otherwise. Perhaps it wasn't the end, but a clearing, a place to build something new. A surge of anger rose in him, sharp and sudden. He stood, tearing the sketch in half with a ferocity that startled even himself. The paper fluttered to the sand like fallen leaves.
Is this what you want? To take everything from me until there's nothing left?
But as the echo of his words faded, so did his resistance. He sank back to the ground, his breath uneven. The pieces of the cuboctahedron lay scattered, incomplete. Yet, for the first time, he didn't reach to reassemble them. He let them be fragments, not a whole. Dr. Axell closed his eyes. The question Miss White had posed now a faint whisper in the back of his mind.
Who am I?
In the silence that followed, he felt something shift. It wasn't an answer, far from it. It was a surrender, a willingness to sit with the question rather than flee from it. The tide crept closer, the water cool against his fingertips. For the first time in years, he felt no need to control, to define, to build. Perhaps he thought Miss White was right. Perhaps the cuboctahedron was never meant to be a map. Perhaps it was a mirror.